pops up.
Mike Tomlin could have been on psilocybin mushrooms and not have hallucinated a better, more perfect vision than that. That is insane.
But the timing of this, and this is part of what's so crazy to me about it, is this was done in June. This was done way back. So it's not like, I don't think anything that happened last week was in anticipation of this, though it's not something I would necessarily put past Antonio Brown.
Yes.
I don't think that's what happened here. But lucky for them, it's all happening right now. They kind of sort of have a chance to fix all of this as this goes down the line. Right? Kinda, sorta.
Well, you're betting that this is kind of Antonio Brown getting everything out of his system, that maybe we now know all the cards that are on the table. But let me ask you a question. Where's that James Harrison other video? Where's that coming out? Because every day new content from this man keeps emerging, and what a beautiful smile.
But here's the
They're
thing.
right about that.
That's the thing. Here's the thing that he wants. No, and I say this with no judgment. I feel like this is just an indisputable statement of fact. He just wants us to look at him. He wants us to
that is
see
correct.
him. He wants us to observe him. He wants to feel as though he is important in that way. That is what compels you to be the guy during the post-game talk after a playoff game, to just stand on Facebook Live just looking at yourself.
Oh, for like a half hour.
That was it. Like, if you think about it, it wasn't like it was some production. It wasn't like he was talking over Mike Tomlin.
Nope.
It was just, look at me, dog. Look at me.
The leaking of the confidential information from that meeting was incidental to just the 30-minute selfie that Antonio Brown was giving us.
Yes, and as a congratulations, producers of The Masked Singer.
Absolutely.
You got everything you could have got out of this.
What a weird Korean reboot game show that landed at our
Oh, it's
desk.
one of those.
Absolutely.
Learn something new every day. Next name, Jerome Foster. Today, the state's attorney's office in Florida dropped a misdemeanor domestic violence charge against the Washington linebacker stemming from a November 24th incident. Pablo, what should the NFL do with Foster now?
Well, they have to reckon with the disconnect between justice and the justice system, right? It's important to note that just because charges were dropped, it does not mean something, an action, an event did not happen. We've heard testimony from the woman in question. Obviously, sitting at this desk, Bo, we don't know anything beyond what's been presented to us. But what the NFL can do here is take advantage of this thing called the Commissioner's Exempt List, which seems to be a de facto purgatory. When you don't know what's happening and when you're waiting for the legal system to give us more information, leave him there. As far as what they can do beyond that, I don't really know.
Well, no, because they can't leave him there forever. Like the commissioner's,
Not forever.
No, but the commissioner's exempt list is no longer a solution. It was a solution when you had to make sure that he didn't get out there and play a game. They've got months to figure something out beyond that. Now, what I think the NFL has that is most beneficial to them is they have an alleged victim who seems like she would be willing to cooperate with their investigation. And I say that because she was willing to cooperate with television outlets and did an interview, what was it, Good Morning America, where she did that, right? You got somebody that's willing to talk to you. Their difficult thing is they don't have any measure of subpoena power. They can conduct an investigation. They decided themselves that they wanted to get into the business of reckoning the disconnect between justice and the justice system. They want this, right? They can do an investigation and they can get to the bottom in some form of fashion of what has happened here, but they are aware that a guilty verdict or a not guilty verdict is not the extent of what one of these stories are. They know this. Ben Roethlisberger's case is an example of that. They've been willing to do this. So now, go do the sort of investigation you said you were willing to go do.
Yeah, and I think cooperation from the person in question, from the alleged victim, now a person whose charges have been dropped in terms of her testimony. But yeah, cooperation from her would be helpful. I would say that the process of what a team does in the future is the next step for this discussion, right? Because the Washington football team dove in, and now they have a result to vindicate them. But their process, to be clear, did not involve anything beyond, let's claim this.
Hold on. This isn't a result. This is a point along the way. This isn't a result. We can easily get more information that turns this thing right back on.
Next name, the Lakers. As Paul George dropped 37 points last night, the LA fans rained down boos and chants of "We do not need you" at him. Let's listen to LA.
And Paul George.
This is who y'all are now.
It's already been a fabulous night.
I mean, do you really believe that?
It's been a tough 7 years for Lakers fans.
You really believe that? You guys wanted him so badly. But are they right that they, don't need a Paul George on this team?
Need him for what? If you argue that they need Paul George, what do they need Paul George for?
Contention? Playoff contention?
Do they need to contend right now? Because the issue about not taking Paul George or Paul George not being there, whatever, If they get another one, then this isn't a big deal. I mean, the Thunder beat a team last night that didn't have LeBron James. We'd have a different discussion about this. Yeah, they need another player to go with LeBron James. Did that player have to be Paul George? I don't necessarily think so.
Now, the issue is that there are only so many people of Paul George's caliber who exist on the planet. And we saw last night LeBron James get up from his seat and go stand in the shadows as we watch Paul George. Just, by the way, he is amazing. As a two-way player, we were having conversations. It's Kawhi Leonard, it's LeBron James, it's Paul George in terms of two-way superstars. But the problem is that last night, Paul George is doing this to the Lakers. LeBron James is on the bench. And do we have the video of LeBron James being in the tunnel, standing in the shadows? This is him meeting one of his teammates, by the way.
Did I say it?
Yes, Svi, I believe is how you pronounce it. But LeBron James is there talking to Rob Pelinka, talking to Magic Johnson, and it does underscore the fact that the assets they have aren't great, right? This is a guy looking at trade assets depreciate.
They look like Pat Riley and Lonzo Ball in that game against the Thunder in the crowd. You remember that?
Yes. It felt like something close to the end of something, and maybe it's the time for these young guys to be actually valuable.
Well, yeah, I mean, none of those young guys look like they can be perennial all-stars. They look like cool pieces to have, nice guys to add into trades, but and that is Brandon Ingram included. They don't look like game-changing kinds of players. But I still think they can turn up and get somebody else. And if they get somebody else, and the fact they didn't get Paul George doesn't matter. Also, keep in mind, the way the season ended for Paul George last year is hard to overcome. And we've seen a few too many times. Only time we've seen playoff P is in that Gatorade commercial. Otherwise, we just seen that dude Paul. What do you call himself? Tresse.
But now you need to find a taker for like Alonzo Ball, who's shooting 45% from the free throw line.
But that's why they need to sell early on all these dudes. Everybody loves their own guys a little bit too much. Coming up next, who's the best team for NFL Hard Knocks this year?
Listen up, knuckleheads. High Noon is brought to you by Advil. You'll ask, what pain with Advil?
High Noon is coming at you from the Seaport District at Pier 17, brought to you by Chase. I love New York.
You know, it's only a matter of time before Lonzo, when does LeVar come back?
We have not heard from LeVar in a while. I did see LaMelo was like throwing down dunks at the Lakers practice facility though.
Oh.
So I feel like there is a little bit
he went to school in Ohio.
Oh.
Anyway.
School, huh?
Quote, it's not something we would be really excited about. I love the show, but I think some things are best left behind closed doors. It's not something we'd be thrilled about. Said 49ers GM John Lynch when asked about the possibility of his team being featured on HBO's Hard Knocks this year. The NFL can force Washington, the 49ers, the Lions, the Giants, and the Raiders to do the show. Pablo, who are you rooting for?
There are some good choices in there. Like, what if Matt Patricia gets fired on an episode of Hard Knocks?
I mean, if they was going to do that, it'd have happened.
That would be amazing. I mean, the Giants, Odell Beckham, Eli, that's great, but I think we both know what the best answer to this is. It has to be the Raiders. It must be the Raiders, Bo. John Gruden is best as a guy hosting a football TV show. This is what that would be.
Here's my question. If it is the Raiders, where are they going to play? As things stand right now, they ain't got nowhere to play. At least the last time I checked. Are they still going to be able to use their little facility? Are they going to be flying from wherever their facility is now to wherever far-flung place is going to be home for them?
That is great television.
I mean, look, you know John Gruden wants to be on there. If there's anything that we've learned from John Gruden's return to coaching is that he really did like being on television. Because he seems to really relish the parts of this job that are about being on TV. Mike Mayock come down there. He'll say all the stuff that he's got.
Right. We'll show you his gut feelings.
Yeah, we got all of that. Like, I think the Raiders are the way to go. The Giants could be great because we got the Eli situation as we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. You got Odell Beckham. You got Saquon. There's a lot there.
It feels weird to just like brush Odell Beckham Jr. to the side because in any other year that's the answer. But we might get the Peterman on Hard Knocks.
Ooh, he does.
Future reserve contract.
Because everybody wants to feel like they can play in the NFL too.
Next quote. We'll see. I don't know if it's leaning one way or the other right now. Said Eli Manning when asked on WFAN if we've seen the last of him on the field. Bo, do you see Eli playing quarterback for the Giants?
Dude, tough call. Last 8 games of the year. Number on the card, my man, Florida James. He turned it up, right? His QBR went up from 40.6 to 63.9. The big thing was the interceptions. Well, they actually were about the same. With touchdowns, he had more of those. He was not bad to close out the year. And he was not bad in the games that Odell Beckham didn't play, except for that one. But they just need a plan. It doesn't matter if he comes back next year. They need a plan for what they're going to do after him. The way I said it before we talked about this, the gas light's on. They got home, and they're like, whoo, I'm glad we got home. Y'all still need gas. He is the gas light.
Inertia is not a bad way forward if you are understanding that standing pat is only temporary, right? Eli Manning, to his credit, went from the midpoint of last year being a guy who should be unemployed to being a dude who could conceivably start for a team that views next season as another lost season. But for the Giants, the question is who's going to replace him? And now Herbert's out of the draft. Dwayne Haskins may not be in the draft. That crop seems to be a lot thinner. That's the big unanswerable question.
Well, they have also demonstrated as a franchise that their decision on what to do with Eli Manning is not purely going to be based on logic. The logic has to be stronger than their feelings because they love him. Like, that's how solid the logic has to be. If they can't come up with an idea that's so good that it'll help them overcome how they're going to feel bad about telling Eli the time is up, then they're not going to do it. But they have to come out of this with some variety of plan. I don't care how bad the quarterbacks are in the draft in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Y'all have to take one.
Could Nick Foles be the answer?
But he ain't got no future either.
But he does have more of a present, arguably. Might win the Super Bowl this year, man.
Again.
Whoa.
Sometimes you learn from sitting, too. Said Bulls coach Jim Boylan after he played rookie Wendell Carter Jr. under 20 minutes for the 5th time since he took over on December 3rd. Let's listen.
The reason for Wendell not playing the final 20?
Yeah, he just, didn't need to put him back in.
What do you mean by that? Like, the counter would be it's about player development in many ways.
Well, sometimes you learn by sitting, too.
Oh.
What do you think he learns by sitting?
He sees what's going on in the game. Yeah. Maybe you have some introspection. Maybe you realize I got to play my minutes better when I'm out there.
Pablo?
He has great concerned face. The furrowed brow is convincing, but this is a man living up to the caricature of himself, Bo. Like, is he a football coach? Is he what is Jim Boylan to these young people, right? Because he's having them do things they don't want to do.
Look at them.
The parlor game is who is the saddest on this team right now. And we saw Zach LaVine give a pretty good argument.
Zach LaVine looks sadder playing for the Bulls than he was when they drafted him to play for the Timberwolves. Think about that for a second, right? He's just there. Laurie Marketing, he ain't come to America for this. This is not what it is. You say, what do these young people look at him as? You know what they look at him as. They see Jim Boylan and they say the same thing that we saw in that video when we saw that dude. He the cops.
He's a sergeant.
He's Sarge.
He's Sarge.
That's what they're like. Come on, Sarge. Those dudes over there looking like, here goes Sarge messing with us again. We just over here trying to play basketball and have a good time. Here's Sarge over here lecturing us.
And the crazy thing is, Sarge has taken this defense from a bottom 10 defense before him to a top 10 defense under him. It's just that offense.
But they were the worst offense in the league before.
Ever.
They're still the worst offense in the league. And this is after getting Marketing back. LaVine has come back. What are you doing to make them better? We just go toughen you up. All right, good job. Good luck with that, Sarge. Coming up next, there's something wrong with Russell Westbrook? Did I switch that up?
Leadership Council.
Now, I tell you, I would watch High Noon about the Lions if we could get honest opinions of Matt Patricia.
Hard Knocks about the Lions.
Yeah, you know what I said.
I would watch High Noon hosted by Michael Wilbon, who somehow did that ad for us.
Actually, High Noon about the Lions would get canceled.
It would.
That would not be exciting.
Deservedly so. Today's number, 30%, which is the percentage of jump shots that Russell Westbrook has made this season. Bo, should the Thunder be concerned about a 31-year-old Russ?
Do they have a weird thing going on right now with Russell Westbrook where he has the best defensive rating in the NBA? That's something that normally goes to big men, right? Like a Rudy Gobert type. He has the best defensive rating in the NBA and an offensive rating that is below 100. That is bad. The below 100 part is bad. He is averaging the triple-double, but he's shooting, 23% from three-point range?
24%.
Right. My bad. Don't want to shortchange him.
Do not.
But he's dialed back. His usage numbers are down, and they are doing really well, so I don't know.
They're the 3 seed, and Russell Westbrook has turned himself inside out. And offensively, the 30% and the 24% on threes, 30% on jumpers, 24% on threes, like, for context, Markelle Fultz was shooting 30% on jumpers and 29% on threes. Russell Westbrook is worse than Markelle Fultz at shooting. Russell Westbrook is also, what is he at the line right now? In
Like
the
63%.
60s?
63%,
What is happening to
which
him?
is an over 20% drop from the line than what we had 2 years ago. Take this one into account also. He was at about 10.5 free throws a game 2 years ago. Now, that was the triple-double year, the MVP year, where he had the ball all the time. He's only getting to the line 5.6 times per game this year. All of this does speak to maybe a player who physically is on the decline, but this is a dude that was always so far ahead of everybody else physically. How much of a physical decline can his game withstand? We saw with Allen Iverson. Once his body went a little bit, his game went a lot.
No, we've assumed that Russell Westbrook, when he gets the dent in the face and all of the knee operation, that he'll be fine. But the saving grace, Paul George came to be his number 2.
Yeah.
And it seems like both of them are okay with
By the
it.
way, 3 Supermax guys that stand out in this league. Westbrook, Chris Paul, and John Wall. And we got questions about all of those contracts. In closing, allow us to take a moment to remind you what makes life great is the small joys, the little things that make you smile, even if you don't really know why. With that in mind, happy 36th anniversary to one of those things that makes the world a better place, Plinko.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Everybody likes Plinko. Do you know anybody that doesn't like Plinko?
I think it's the name. Like the name just
I don't even have it's just like
projects joy.
as soon as the board comes up, you're just like, yo, it's Plinko. There's Snoop with some random person on Plinko because Snoop goes on The Price is Right, which is crazy. And I know that we probably got some older people who are watching the show, and I apologize to you because we're giving you Drew Carey because you know that's not who they want to see. Your granny want to sit on the couch, cross her legs, lick her lips, fire up that cigarette, and see that man's man, Bob Barker. They want Bob Barker. How many people are sitting here right now and didn't realize the reason that they granny liked Bob Barker so much? It wasn't like Walter Cronkite. She liked him for the news. She had something Bob Barker could use.
The bad news, Bomani Jones, is that I have learned in my ear that there are at least 2 producers of High Noon that have no idea what Plinko is.
Who doesn't know what Plinko is?
Brad?
You don't know what Plinko
Brad,
is?
how do you not? Plinko, the name Plinko kind of explains what it is. It plinks.
Hold on now. Let me stop because I was about to say something really, really harsh and I need to calm down. We need to realize some people didn't grow up with television in the house. I didn't know you were Amish, Brad. I had no idea, right? Like you never told me about riding around on the horses in the wagon. Who else don't know about Plinko?
Cortez
doesn't know about Plinko.
That is that's ridiculous. There are entire episodes.
You know what it is? Cortez, you didn't watch Price is Right with your grandmama, did you?
There are entire episodes of The Price is Right where they just do Plinko.
Really?
Why? Yes, because Plinko is the
LeBron
best.
made a whole game show out of Plinko.
The Wall.
Cortez, your grandma may watch Price is Right?
For legal reasons, by the way. The Wall, Plinko, very different.
Okay.
In closing, I have been back in the U.S. for 3 days now after spending 6 lovely days abroad in London. But my main takeaway was not the glory of British culture, but Japanese culture. Because I had a Japanese toilet in my hotel room. And if you are not familiar, Bo, with the Japanese toilet, let us watch and let us learn. Roll it, please.
Are we giving a toilet tutorial?
This is a video from a producer who did know what Plinko was, Charles Peach, in Japan. Look at all of these options.
Dog, why do I...
Listen to the sound. There is a flushing sound effect.
Okay, you haven't shown me anything I need.
Shout out to Charles Peach's finger. That's, to make your privacy a little bit more comfortable because, and this is the bidet feature.
Oh, the thing that shoot the water in your booty?
That's right.
Oh, okay, so it comes like out of nowhere.
Oh, look at the angle on that.
Yo, but imagine if you didn't know what was going on and you just hit a button and next thing you know, you're sitting there and something starts shooting water in your booty.
Invest in your booty. That's all I'm saying. Invest in it.
That's like a commercial for Dr. Miami. Highly questionable's up next.